If you're shopping for a new compact or mid-sized car, in fact, just about anything at this point, be it internal combustion engine or EV, there's a good chance we just focus on the internal combustion compact or mid-sized car. There's a very good chance that at least one, if not, I'm thinking about it as I'm speaking it, at least half have all-wheel drive as standard or have an optional trim or a trim with that as an option. If you would go back only a decade, yeah, maybe even less, that certainly was not the case. In fact, there were only one or two automakers that had adapted, or adopted, I should say, all-wheel drive as a feature, a desirable feature, be it for safety, for traction, and all of the above. But ahead of all of those guys was Subaru. Some 40 years ago, my goodness, maybe more, I don't know. Subaru, the first mainstream automaker to recognize, volume mainstream automaker, to recognize the value of all-wheel drive. And my goodness, I remember the Legacy GT. Was it a GT in the late 1980s? Anyhow, but it was in 1992 that my eyes opened up, because Subaru introduced the Impreza, which kinda looked a little bit like this. And shortly after that, I discovered the World Rally Championship, and Subaru quickly rose to one of the top automakers, at least in my books at the time, as a young man. But then everything just solidified for me in 1998 when Subaru launched the Impreza 2.5 RS. Here was a car, be it a two-door or a four-door, rare, gorgeous four-door, that promised performance in a packaging that was just decidedly sporty and powerful, but yet still, yeah, I don't want to say cute, but everything about that car was fantastic. And then there were other iterations such as this. And yeah, from the 2.5 RS, then came the first Bug-Eye WRX, and yeah, let's just say I was really into Subarus at the time, but I didn't buy one for a very, very long time. All that to say that today, and for the last, more than 10 years now, in fact, you can't buy a Subaru product without all-wheel drive. And because of that, because of the interest generated by all-wheel drive, now you can get a Mazda 3 with all-wheel drive. You can get a Toyota Corolla with all-wheel drive. Before they pulled the plug, you can get a Lancer with Mitsubishi Lancer with all-wheel drive, and a number of other ones. I mean, in fact, the rare ones that are still not into it, despite being into it previously, is like Honda and the Civic. There was Civic wagon with all-wheel drive, real-time. Oh, what a great car. Oh, I'm going off. I apologize. This is the new 2024 Subaru Impreza, and as you can see on the front door, there's a little badge there that says RS. Yes, for this generation of the Impreza, Subaru decided to bring back the RS badging to much acclaim. Let's put it that way, because the idea of dropping the RS badge on this great compact car meant that there were going to be a few bumps in performance and less horsepower and maybe other little doodads and doohickeys that were going to make it a little bit more interesting. And within one short detail, and it's not necessarily a detail, it's just because of my association with RS, the car is just about perfect. I'll tell you now, CVT only, the entire lineup of Imprezas. So you can't get an RS with a manual gearbox, which is unfortunate, but they would sell 7 per year in Canada, so there's absolutely no point. I understand. I release that from my being as being an issue. The Impreza, though not a huge seller in the compact car segment, is still probably one of the most interesting, well-rounded compact cars you can buy, and once more, it's one that I often overlook when I'm driving around in a Corolla or a Mazda 3 or a Civic or a Forte or all of these cars. And I, again, like the Forester, there's just something about the Subaru product that is so unique and special that it kind of wiggles its way out of my psyche. And yet I'm such a fan of the brand. Wow, so many minutes have gone by and I've said absolutely nothing useful. If you're still with me, I thank you so much. In the following video, we are going to do a walk around of this 2024 Subaru Impreza, and after that we're going to go for a little boot. So please still hang in there if you're still there. So for the 6th generation of the Subaru Impreza, the designers just went, I don't want to say all out, but I think they were inspired by the idea of the return of the RS. So they kind of beefed everything up. Everything looks a lot chunkier, a lot more performance oriented, a little bit more muscular, a little bit beefier. And I've done many laps now already of this car, and I just think it looks fantastic. And admittedly, pure red on this RS absolutely works. What does kind of help with the RS is, well, the black side sills, so the black mirror caps, a black spoiler, and black trim all around, which really, and black wheels, did I say that? No. Really emphasizes kind of the intention behind the RS. But let's focus now. Pricing in the US, base price for a 2024 Impreza is $22,995, and the top trim in the US is the RS at $27,885. In Canada, we get the convenience, the base price, which is $26,795. I remember only a few years ago or so, it seems, $19,995 was the price for a base Impreza, which is kind of nuts. The top trim in Canada is the Sport Tech at $34,795. The base car is well equipped. The convenience, EyeSight, all-wheel drive, 7-inch touchscreens, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, heated front seats. It's all pretty much in there. And now, this one, the RS. $31,795 as it sits. You get the aforementioned 18s, Subaru Starlink connected. You get a power moonroof, 11.6-inch touchscreen, which is the second trim to offer it. I think there's a Touring before it. There's a Harman Kardon audio, wireless phone charger. There's a bunch of carbon look trim on the inside, a power driver seat, special badging, and so on and so forth. $31,795. I can't believe that's the kind of money you're going to end up spending on a compact car in 2023, 2024. It's so much money, but in today's reality, it's not that insane price-wise, especially when you consider everything you do get with this car. Do we do one final lap? Let's go low. Look how much wider it looks now. I don't know. It's a lovely car, absolutely. And again, pure red. I'm pretty sure this is the exact color I would go for. 578 liters is what you get in the hatch, which is fantastic. I mean, a wide opening, everything works out beautifully. There's even a fair amount of storage under here, which is great. Accessible, easy. It's a hatchback. I don't know why people buy sedans. Never understood that when hatchbacks like this exist. So as the family hauler, there's plenty of room back here. Again, compact car, but still. Look at the amount of leg room you get here if you're an adult or just a regular-sized human being. That's my driving position as always. You can't really squeeze anyone between the two seats, but hey, if you have 3 kids, maybe you get something a little bit bigger. But suffice it to say, and I do like, look how wide the opening is. You can't really tell, I think, on screen, but it's actually quite easy to climb in and out of this car. Compact hatchback, right? Anyhow. Okay, so here's where things, well, I was going to say get interested, but it's really only aesthetics. But speaking of aesthetics, I mean, the number of materials and the surfaces, how they all come together. I mean, some of these plasticky things, at least they're soft, but it's cheapish, I have to admit, but with the, cross-stitching red and the decent switch gear, which is very Subaru, everything kind of comes together quite nicely. Seats are actually quite soft, but still comfortable enough. Bolstering is decent. Power lumbar support, that's fantastic. Now let's just slide aboard. Start it up. Let's just start right here. 11.6-inch screen. I'm gonna try not to be in the reflection, but for the most part, it's okay. Often though, it's very slow to respond. HVAC controls, You got to do that to get them all to appear. You have to remember your home button is there so you can go through various settings. Now your car controls, you know what, I'm going to mention it right now. Driving assistance, pre-collision braking. As a whole, and this was the case in the Forester too, EyeSight is overly excited, unbelievably annoying, and the fact is that you cannot officially shut that off. Every time you shut the car off, pre-collision braking goes right back on, which is incredibly frustrating. Whereas I think in the Forester, there was a control on the roof panel here, and you can actually turn it off for good. This is regretful, as is the 11.6 inch screen. I mean, it looks great. It's a nice discussion piece, but I don't know. The functionality is far too limited, and response time is too slow, but I suppose you get used to it. Oh yeah, I mentioned this too right now, Sport Sharp and then Intelligent, so that's your drive modes right there. Heated steering wheel, very nice touch. The steering wheel itself is very grippy with fat spokes. Well, fat spokes, a little too fatty here, but still, it's nice. Love the gauges. It's, as I've said for another number of other cars, I mean, analog with a digital readout in the middle. You can't really ask for better than that. There's your wireless charge pad. These heated switch buttons, heated seat switches, I love them. Storage is decent, as where I was going, kind of okay. Door bins are small-ish, but as always, and we'll end on this, for the interior part is, visibility is absolutely second to none. It is exceptional. Look at this, look how thin the A-pillar is, the size of the small window here, so you can't, there's just, pedestrians are safe thanks to that. Anyhow, it all looks great, and I think that's it. It's time for a drive. I said I wouldn't say it, and I expulsed it from my being, but I don't know. Although, I have to admit that the last manual transmission Impreza I drove, which was 5-7 years ago, I don't know, the throws were long, and the shifter itself was sloppy-ish. There wasn't any real pleasure actually working the manual transmission. So, in a way, given, you know, mainstream again, and it's just an Impreza with a larger motor, the fact that you have, you know, paddle shifters and programmable gears or programmed gears with the CVT will fulfill driving-ish enthusiasts-ish, you know, desire to seem like they're in control of something. If they really want to drive and really want to be in control, then you get a Rex and all your dreams will come true. But overall, I have to say, I mean, the CVT, Lineartronic CVT is a very, very nice, continuously variable transmission. It does what it needs to do. It keeps fuel consumption numbers, which in this thing is about 8 liters per 100 kilometers, which I'm not that far off. So surprisingly efficient, but still at 8 liters, you know, up to 9 in the city and stuff like that, 9.2, I think. It's a fair amount of fuel for a compact car. It's not something you'll experience, say, in a Civic or a Corolla. But yeah, I guess we can talk about the 2.5. So you still have the 2 liter in the base 2 trims, which puts out 152 horsepower. But once you step into the RS and into the Sport Tech, you get the 2.5 liter flat 4 as standard. The same engine you'll find in most regular sized Subaru products. And it puts out 182 horsepower at 5,800 RPM and 178 pound-feet of torque at 3,700 RPM. And you can tell this is kind of like it just kicks in right around 4,000 RPM. It's kind of nice, I have to say. Slight disappointment though, but again, this is just me with an RS state of mind, is that the flat 4 is unbelievably quiet, like so quiet, which is, I don't know. For a mainstream buyer, they don't want to be bothered by the burble of a flat 4, which is so unique and special. Anyway, other things, the drive, that's my tripod in the back moving around. The driving experience is very Subaru. Though this is a new car, and the steering is still so Subaru. I mean, you have to, I say this every time I review a Subaru, and unless you've driven a Subaru, you don't understand. But I guess in a way it doesn't really matter, because most will just say steering is fine, and yes, it's responsive. Brake pedal feels good too. Another thing that I love about all Subarus, and that applied to the Forester last week, and last other regular Subis that I've driven, is just the way the chassis is tuned. The suspension, global, bolted to the global platform, is given all the liberty to do the dampening as it should. It's a double wishbone in the back, independent in the front, obviously, and even the roughest surfaces, the Impreza just soaks them up as though they were pebbles or twigs on the ground. It's such a nice feeling, and it's so good in the greater Montreal area where the roads are all absolutely terrible. It's such a blessing. The 18-inch wheels versus the 17s and the lower trims, maybe a slightly lower sidewall, meaning what I'm trying to say is that the lower trims are probably a little bit more comfortable. But look, generally speaking, I mean, if you want a hatchback in the compact car segment, there aren't that many left. There aren't many compact or subcompact cars left, period. Thank you, useless small SUVs that we love to pay more for and get nothing more out of them. But the Impreza is a great option. I've got nothing to say. I mean, the Civic is still boss, and the Corolla is still absolute boss. In fact, the Corolla, with the number of versions you can get, from the Corolla Cross to hybrids and all-wheel drives and all of that, as far as the offering is concerned, it just can't be beat. And the Korean products are nice too, value-packed as always, but the design is just way out there. Way out there. Especially, well, not especially, but, well, the updated Elantra, it's too much. It's just too much. But yeah, so this you never go wrong with an Impreza. I'll end on that. But my money would go on a Corolla hybrid all-wheel drive. And I know it's not a hatchback, but you can get a Corolla Cross, which bugs me a lot, but maybe I get an Impreza.